Hello, I am Justin Whitty, and you are listening to the Cleve Cast. Each week, we speak to different artists and creators to give you behind-the-scenes access to everything happening at the Cleve Carney Museum of Art. And today, we are joined once again by the director and curator of the Chiossone Museum in Genoa, Italy, Aurora Canepari. Aurora will talk to us about some of the amazing objects we have on display in the museum as part of the Hokusai Ukiyo-e exhibition, and also answer some questions we have from our visitors. So let's jump into my discussion with Aurora. Welcome back, Aurora. It's so good to see you. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks. It's nice to see you again and be here again.
Well, this is the last time we get to talk to you in this format before you return for the end of the exhibition, which is in just 2 months. I can't believe it. But in the meantime, I hope you're enjoying your summer, and I hope the museum's doing well as well.
Very well, yeah. We are on full activities and just a little bit of stops in the August, which is really like for really holiday for the Italian. But we are planning for September a lot of things.
I wanted to start today with just asking you a few questions that I've heard from some of our visitors that I don't know the complete answer to, that you might be able to shed some
Let's
light
try.
on. So the first one that I get a lot is visitors are fascinated by the woodblock printing process. One question I receive a lot is, are there any of the original woodblocks of some of the most famous prints still in existence? Like, are there still any of the woodblocks from the Wave or any of Hiroshige's original blocks out there? And if so, where are they?
First of all, yes, we still have some original woodblock, yeah, but we don't have in our collection. So this is one thing we are missing. Um, I don't think we have. I never researched about it, but I don't think we have original block from the Great Wave or the most famous of Hiroshige. And the reason is because we can't have the original woodblock of the very uh, bestseller because they were used until they were worn. So they used the same block for a lot of prints. And then when the edges are really worn, you throw it away.
They
And
just
the
threw
only
them out.
things you can do, so this for the original woodblock that they were made like the original artist and the original editor intended to be. Then what you can do next when the original woodblock are really worn out, you can make new block starting not from the original artwork of the artist, but starting from the print that you already printed. And this is not the original artwork. So we don't have them in museum collection as original artwork. And if we have always to say people, this is not the original artwork, it's not contemporary of the artist, it's something that you reprint, but not starting from the original artist drawing. And the reason is if there is a bestseller, so you don't have the woodblock. But if we have like something is not so common, so asked by the clients, you could have the remain block. In some collection, some private collection or some museum collection, you can find the block. You usually can find the black line block, which is the one with all the outline. But you can also find the block with only one space, which is like maybe only this part of the print has yellow, so this is the block of the yellow, and you can't understand what it is because you don't have context. So they are very difficult to read. So unless you have all the collection of the block, it's difficult to read.
To know how it goes together, right?
Yeah, but usually in Japan, but also in in Europe, I think also in US, could be some collection which have lesser known artists woodblocks still remaining nowadays. They are very much more rarer than the prints. Uh, that doesn't mean that they could stand for the original artwork. They
Right.
are the
Okay.
tools.
Right.
So, but
It's just one
we
part.
have them.
Okay, they are out in existence, but from the popular, it's ironic because the most popular prints, you would not have them because they would have been used till the very end.
Yeah,
Um,
but for example, in Japan, there is still an institution who still nowadays prints Japanese prints with the original craftsmanship, and they have a lot of blocks because they do it every day, and they have the block they made from Hiroshige and from Hokusai. So if one is interested, can look for Adachi Institute and their work, and they surely have, because they make a new block for their printing. They also collaborate with contemporary artists. So if an artist now want to print with the original Japanese woodblock technique, can ask for them and have their work done, just like the old Japanese have done.
two more questions having to do with kind of lineage. And the first is about your museum, the Chiossone. And a lot of people have asked us if there are still family members from Edoardo Chiossone in the community. Is there kind of ancestors in Genoa who are at all connected to what you do, or is that not really something that exists?
Um, Edoardo Chiossone didn't have children, so we don't have direct lineage. He had some sisters that had children, and they always lived in Italy. Uh, so in Genoa, we had some very old ancestor, very old lineage. How do you say?
Lineage, yeah.
Sorry,
Lineage, yes.
lineage from not Chiossone, but from his sisters. But one now, she's very, very, very old, and the other passed away before I was beginning to work with the museum. So I didn't have the opportunity to have direct connection. What we have is some years ago we found out one which is not direct lineage of Chiossone, uh, but was connected with the husband of one of the sister of Chiossone, and this person had the opportunity to collect the very only letters we have from Chiossone to Italy, which were the letters that he was sending to his family. They were addressed to this man, who was also his one of his best friends and who was husband of his sister. So he was addressing the letter to his friend in order to have them read out in all the family, because
Oh, okay. To share with the
it
whole
was
family.
very expensive to send letters, so they tried to send just one letters, and then you can read to all the family. This is for all the sister, this is for mother, and this is for you, and this is a lot of information. And yeah, some years ago we had the opportunity to speak with this person, which is also really old, but he has no blood connection with Chiossone because it was the other part of the family. But because he knew that Chiossone was so important, he collected these um, letters from his ancestor, and we had the opportunity to study them. So this is the very most exemplar connection we have in the community.
The strongest connection in the
Yeah,
community.
and he is living in Arenzano. This old man is Mr. Livi is his name, is living in Arenzano, which is the original birthplace of Chiossone. So also this thing was very interesting. And with Arenzano municipality and some people working in Arenzano in the cultural affair, we tried to find out if at Arenzano there were still like some family or lineage, but there are none. And also all the establishments that were owned from the family, so houses or company, because the family of Chiossone has a paper product company. Yeah, it was very common in this area. It doesn't. There is no establishment anymore. They were destructed, and we don't have not the birthplace house. We don't have it. So, and also we don't have documents. There is really no, but we still have a lot of people with the surname Chiossone in Arenzano. So it's something that
It's a
remains.
common name.
And also, I have been contacted by someone living in South America, I think, or Argentina, because a lot of people from Genoa moved to Argentina. And someone with still the surname Chiossone, they remember that Eduardo was famous. So through Facebook, they wrote me that they remember that someone told them the story as a child of Chiossone. And so I think maybe part of the second generation after the sisters of Chiossone, they moved around the world and we didn't trace them.
The other question, I'm kind of springing on you, so you may not have the answer, but a lot of our visitors also wonder if there's anyone in the kind of family tree of Hokusai who was known or became an artist of any note or worked in a similar field beyond his daughter, obviously.
He had also other daughter outside of Oi that were also like paintings as like not as they were painters, but they were um, as something that in a normal education of a girl of a woman was comprised. So it is not impossible to think that outside of OI, that was a real business. Someone with his name still has this as hobby. How do you say?
Yeah.
But I don't know if there is a lineage of this sort.
Okay.
I think. If this could have happened, we would have known it. I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
right.
if
Because they
someone in the
would not have
name,
hit
in the
it. Yeah.
lineage, this person could have used this
Right.
as personal advertisement. So
Promotion. Yes.
I
Yeah.
think maybe this great um, this great lineage, artistic influence has stopped with Oi.
Well, last time you were on, you gave us really wonderful insight into the painted scrolls, specifically those by Hokusai. And this week, I've asked you to give us some more insight on some of the beautiful objects we have on display in the museum from the Chiossone, because they are some of the most popular aspects of the exhibition. But because they are not associated with a specific artist always, or maybe aren't as well known, there are more questions about them, and people are interested in getting more information. So I thought we could go through some of those objects today, and you could share a little bit about them for our audience. And first, I would like to start with this piece, the shamasan, because it's so special for this exhibition, right? In my understanding, this piece has not been on display in over 80 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
And do you want to explain the story and why that is?
Yeah. First of all, as you said, this is a shamisen, which is a guitar-like instrument, musical instrument. and it is part of the collection of Edoardo Chiossone. We have a small part of the collection. Is not like big as the paintings or the prints, but we have a small part of musical instrument. The reason also why the collection of instrument is small is because Chiossone, before his will, he had already made a donation of musical instrument to an academy in Milan while he was still living. So we lost traces of this musical instrument. So his part of musical instrument original, which he originally collected, was surely bigger. But during his lifetime, he wanted to give this musical instrument for an exhibition in Milan, an expo in Milan, and he sent them, and he was also great thanked officially. So we know he has some interest in musical instrument. This piece remained in his home, so arrived in our collection with all the donation, and it was exhibited in the first building of the collection, which was the Academy of Arts in the school where he studied, where all the instruments were exhibited. And as was previously said, the collection has been moved during the Second World War because of the bombing of Genoa to put them in a safe place. So we had this instrument exhibited in Genoa from 1905 until 1942. And then all the collection was moved in a safe place, which was very common in Italy, but generally in Europe, they were like what you call monuments men. So this squad of people that were taking care of putting in safe place, hidden places, all the historical and artistical pieces. And this has been made also, done also for our collection. What I think is that during that transportation, some of the pieces of the instrument has been damaged. This and another shamisen in our collection, they had this skin, which is really skin. It's leather. Has been cut, worn out, not intentionally. So it's some damage. I think it came from this transportation. Uh, it ripped apart. Um, and when the new museum has been opened, there were no section for the musical instrument. So we don't have in our permanent exhibition one showcase or one part that tells the story of musical instrument or music in Japan. And we have this instrument in our deposit. And since when I started at the museum in my role in 2018, I really wanted for this instrument to be seen. But it was very important to make restoration work on this piece because we cannot exhibit them so damaged as they were. They had also other parts that were not in good shape, like the string, and they had a little bit of dirt on the pictorial part, so where the decoration is. So my idea was really we have to do something for this artwork because they were so good. They are not only musical instruments, but as the case of the shamisen, they are really lacquered piece decorated with high quality craftsmanship. So it is important to have them back in their quite original state as in order not to play them, but in order to appreciate as complete. So this was the occasion. So in the occasion of this exhibition, we had, thanks to you the occasion to restore some of our instruments.
So now I want to talk about some of the pieces that are in the backspace in the museum,
Yeah.
in the kind of the game section of the exhibition. And one that is really fun, and I think a lot of our visitors relate to, is this matching game. And this has these beautifully kind of quirky playing cards. So it's poetic playing cards, is how it's described,
Yeah.
with two sets, right? There are one set where it's just the figure on this beautiful gold leaf ground, and then another set that has a matching figure on the gold ground, but with a little bit of what I believe is poetry written on it as well. And was this, in fact, played like what we would know a contemporary memory card game would be played, where the cards would be flipped over and you would try to find the two that matched, and if you didn't, they would go back over and you'd try to remember them? Is that how this game was played?
It's a little bit different because,
Okay.
but usually we say this to let people understand why there are two decks, because you know, you
Yes.
have similar deck and they are not identical, so it's not like a memory game. It's really a knowledge game. It's like
Oh,
intellectual knowledge game. If you remember when we were talking about the poet Kakinomoto no Hitomaro, I was speaking about how much in Edo period they were fond of uh, classical poetry
yes.
and the anthology, poetical anthology. So the best poetry from the best poet of the past. And that's the reason why we call this kind of game a poetical game. I have to explain one point. This is not a game you make for fun. It's something that really is like an artistic statement. It's something that bound the people that they have in common knowledge, intellectual status. So it is something like nowadays is played like really like a game, a challenging game. But in that days, it was something that was really based on the love for literature and poetry that people had, and it was very spread. So it was something so loved that was also used as the topic of the game. But not like a gambling game or a fun game. It's like a very sophisticated game. Usually this kind of game, which we call karuta, that carta comes from Portuguese word, because all the game in Japan that has been made with cards have been influenced by the contact with the Portuguese. And at the beginning, in 16th century, they were used some kind of cards that still resembles the way that the Portuguese played it. But with times, they sophisticated it more and more, and they began to put inside the game their iconography, Japanese iconography, and Japanese style. So it's not much more, it's no more the card game we used to play with the game with card, but it became something more naturally in their way of game, which was the awase. And awase mean making couples, so matching. So the matching game is something very spread in the Japanese culture. And as you said before, resembles the memory game because you make a couple, but it's not based on the memory. I mean, not only on visual memory. It's based on your knowledge, on your memory of the literature. And usually this kind of karuta game was very common, the uta karuta or uta garuta, which means the karuta with the poetry, with the poems. And it's still very, very well known nowadays. Maybe you remember that where we were working the exhibition, I told you there is also one manga and anime which is based on this kind of game that led on a very high popularity of this game in Japan nowadays. The manga and anime is Chihayafura, I think. Maybe I don't remember it correctly, but it's still nowadays played. And um, this kind of game, Utagaruta, has the images of the poet or the something of the poetry, some symbol of the poetry in one deck, so only images. On the other deck, you have the beginning of the poetry. So you have two people playing, and a third person, which is not part of the match, but he's challenging them. I don't know how to say in English, but it's like challenging them. So he drew a card and he said the first letter of the beginning of the poetry, and these two people has to recognize on the ground where you laid out all the other deck cards, where you have only images. You recognize of which poetry this is the first word. So who is very, very much, so you have to know the poetry, isn't it? So this is a common game you cannot play if you cannot know the poetry. The trick is if you train very well, you recognize all the beginning of all the poetry, and then you can challenge the other person on the very first syllable. So you don't have to listen to the whole first word, but on the first syllable, you can recognize it. So it became like fast recognition game. The odd part of, sorry, odd part of our set is that it's not based on the poetry, but is based on famous no play shows. So the theater that the very classical theater of Japan played with the mask. And we have one part the only the images, and on the other part uh, some words from the most famous song that is played in this show.
These are also just some of my favorite paintings in the entire show because
Yeah.
of the limitation of that small space and how expressive and playful the figures are. And I wish we could show every single one, but we're very limited on case because they are so fun and beautifully done.
Yeah.
They're really
The
fantastic.
really wonderful part of this game is like the cards are not like symbols, they are evocative, they are little paintings. So when
Yes.
you play anyway, if you play with the Utagaruta, so you have a portrait of the poets or of images from the poetry, it is really evocative. So you are not playing with colors or very simple things. You are still playing, but in a context where you have artworks, artworks and poetry that still is in your ear and in your mind. So it's very, very refined moment that you create while you are playing.
Oh, it's beautiful. So all of the objects we have on display are beautifully decorated, right? With the lacquer decoration, with the treatment of the metal. It's intricate. It features a lot of times beautiful representations of nature. But I don't know if a lot of our listeners know how that decoration is actually applied to these objects and what the process is, because these are artists in and of themselves who have created these. They are exceptional just as visual objects, they are exceptional. So can you give us some background on how that decoration is applied, and if the artisans were recognized at the same level maybe some of the printmakers or painters were as well for their skill?
Yeah, we see today, we have seen all pieces that are urushi lacquerware, so object made of wood, and then with a treatment which is the lacquering with the urushi lacquer. And I can answer first that the artisan are only when they have artistic level they are recognized. But we have some pieces that they are marked and with the signature of the artist slash craftsman who made them. And for instance, we have in the exhibition, you have one, how do you say, not the brush, the the comb. Yeah, the comb has a signature, so we can trace them down to a real person who made it, and maybe it was famous, so it was requested to sign, and then leads to a recognition of his name. For other, we don't have signed objects, so we don't have recognition, and nowadays we don't know. So maybe they were not made like one person, but by one a group of people that they were working together in craft. How do you say, the atelier, the place where all the craftsmen works together? So it's like workshop. Yeah, thank you. A workshop. So this is, I think, is the case of this piece, because this piece is not so refined use. Is not made for a so aesthetic and refined use like the two we saw before, which they were very not used on daily basis. They were used rarely for this kind of particular game. And but this one is a smoking step, so was really daily basis use. So it's also a little bit more damaged by the use. So it's a sign that this is a piece that was really loved and used by Japanese of Edo period. And the technique is very unique for Japan. Um, Lacquerware we can find in all Asia, and usually it arrived in Japan through Korea from China, and it develops from the use of the Toxicodendron verniciflum, which is a tree which has a very toxic sap, but you can use this sap for putting layers on everything, every kind of material. And if you put it on the wood, it gives wood a very solid structure. It is more durable, and it becomes waterproof, and but it remains light. The lightness of the tool that you use every day. So you have the both side of the good things, lightness of the wood, and then impermeability taken from the lacquering. And in Japan, they invented also a new way of the decoration of the lacquered object. We had seen also in the other pieces, we have usually a black background, which is made, so we don't see the wooden structure because it's covered in layers and layers and layers of this sap coming from the tree, cut you made in the tree, and mixed with the black color, black pigment. And this is the base you have for usually Japanese object. Then you can add the decoration, and this decoration we call makie, which is a decoration made possible with the powder of metals. You can also use other materials, but usually the very most common and recognizable objects are made with gold powder, that's why they are so a beautiful contrast between the black and the light of the gold. And you can have in the same artwork, in the same piece, different kind of decoration, but usually the technique that the craftsmen use is sprinkling the powder on the top of the surface while the sap is still wet, the urushi is still wet, because different layers, they need a lot of time to dry. But when it's still wet, you can sprinkle on the surface you have outlined as the decorative parts, different shade or different kind of metal powder to give the final impression of paintings or decoration. That's what we can see on this piece. Is also another layer of decoration which has been made with the insert of golden foil. So still on gold, it's gold on gold, but the final effect is that you have some layers. So you can see some flower are more brighter than the others, and you have also some idea of the depth of the decoration. Um, this is very naturalistic decoration. We can have on lacquerware piece also very stylized, very simple. But in this kind of artwork, we really have like a nature piece. So we have the wood, we have the flower, we have the leaves, the butterfly. So it's really wonderful, and it tells of also love of naturalistic representation.
I It's fascinating to me, I imagine the difficulty of using the powdered gold to get such refined images because they're so detailed, and not only the combination of the powder with the gold leaf, but when you come to the museum and you look up close, you can also see different areas where the surface area has been built up a little bit more. So texture is also very considered as well. And it reflects to what you're saying about these objects being the center of rituals and moments of like intentional awareness, whether it be of scent, whether it be of poetry or culture, or even enjoying smoking, right? Which I'm sure also had its small ceremony, that the object themselves would reveal itself at the same pace that the performance or the experience would. And I continue to find with this exhibition that completeness exists in all of this work, and really in the mindset of the artists, and probably, of the period as well, of having this complete consideration, this holistic approach to aesthetics, to the world. And it's really wonderful. And it's such a great gift that we have to share this with our visitors. But probably one of the greatest pieces of the exhibition is to have our access to you and
Oh,
all of your knowledge and generosity, because I think the insight you've provided us in both our interviews has really helped not only me, but a lot of our listeners have a greater appreciation for this work and your museum. So I want to thank you for being so generous and kind with your time. I know it is the evening there in Italy, and I know you're about to go on vacation, so I'm sure you're getting ready for that. But thank you so much for talking
you're
with us
welcome.
again
I'm
today.
very happy. You are all welcome, and I'm very happy to talk about the museum artwork, and also to talk about Chiossone today, that and his lineage. So it was very fun for me talk about different topics. So thank you very much for this interview.
And a reminder, please find the Chiossone Museum online. They do provide an amazing amount of fascinating information. And if
Yeah.
you are heading to Italy,
I have to
please visit.
say the Facebook page is curated by my colleague Selene and our student internship. So that's why we have
Yes.
some very keen insight on video games or anime and manga,
Yes.
because we have always young boys and girls and students that help us to have a new idea, a new hindsight on things, and also on our artwork. So I really want to thank my colleague and the internship student that work with us. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's fine. That's great. You get a sense, and it's wonderful how it stays relevant and vibrant for sure. Well, that's all we have for today. Make sure to follow us at theccma.org or to subscribe to this podcast if you want to hear about more things happening at the museum and the College of DuPage. And that's it for this week. So thank you again, Aurora, and I'll see you in a couple months.